Exchange fighting with movement. Now, beginners don't do movement. All they do is they stay in place. And they're working on inside, outside, overhead. Inside, outside, overhead, right? So they're blocking and they're making sure that all they're doing is a series of 3 upper body strikes, trying to make sure and knock that out, and trying to get the idea of left side, right side, and really not having to try to think about movement yet. Now, intermediate levels and advanced levels need this additional challenge. So now that we've had some familiarity with it, what do you do to challenge your intermediate advanced students? You had movement, you had low strikes. So now it becomes a challenge where they're starting to see movement forward and backward, side to side, upper and lower half, right? So again, it's much more advanced levels of fighting. So whenever we start thinking about the beginning of movement, you can start your classes off with inside, outside, and overhead, right? Something simple where every time I step, inside, outside, overhead, right? And then we start thinking about backwards, inside, outside, overhead. And if you notice what I did is I didn't lift my feet every single time I did a defense. We'll get to that in just a second. The first thing is every time that I begin to step, I'm lifting and being offensive. If I'm striking, I'm lifting and pushing, lifting and pushing, lifting and pushing. Now, what does that remind us of? That reminds us of a jab. Every time that we step and we lift our foot, we drive with our back leg and we push off, and that's like a jab. So the same thing that happens with our offense here, right? If we start moving inside, lift and push, outside, lift and push, and the timing is exactly right? So my feet and my weapon all stop and start at the same time. Now, does this mean that I can switch hands? Absolutely. So if I did this and I switched hands, I could still move. That's totally fine. Switching hands is not wrong. Switching feet is not wrong. So we just want to make sure that anytime we switch feet or switch hands, and make sure that your students are doing this, that it's in the same arm and same leg that's in the front. Make sure it's not opposite. Make sure it's not in the back, right? So that's really, really important to note. Now, if I'm doing any defensive movements, I want to do the same thing where I'm stepping back, I'm planting on this foot, lifting and pushing away, lifting and pushing away, lifting and pushing away. So from the side, I'm lifting and pushing away, lifting and pushing away. So as I lift and push away, that's how I do my defenses right now anyway. I don't cross my feet. So if I'm doing an inside strike or inside block, I'm lifting, stepping back, right? But I'm not lifting my leg until that third move. And the reason is, every time I lift my leg, right, in between, it's just time that they could attack me again. So if I'm still moving, I don't need to lift my leg unless I'm at the end of my space or I've run out of room or whatever it may be, but then I'm able to lift my leg. So we're trying to prepare them. So if my last movement is an inside block, I could do inside block, and again, then I lift my leg. We're teaching them that last move may not be an overhead attack. It could be a different move. So we're learning how to lift our leg all the way through, right? So with our new movement series for intermediate and advanced, we're starting to incorporate these first fundamental steps. They should get this pretty quickly, right? If they're having trouble with it, keep them there. Don't add anything to it. Keep them at that inside, outside, overhead, and then keep them upper half only, let them go, right? And then once they start to feel better with that, and it may not be the first week, it may be on the 10th week that they come back and they have to start to practice the lower half and the movement with the lower half. The idea is, if this is new, don't rush it. Make sure the foundation is there. Inside, outside, overhead is something they already know because they've been practicing it. Now they're doing it with movement, which can be a challenge. If they can get that, give them another level. If they're not ready for that other level yet, keep them where they're at, right? Or sidestep them to something that may challenge them by switching feet or doing something that may challenge them. But don't think of it as they always have to progress forward. They can always progress sideways and then forward as well again. So we don't want to step back. So make sure there's always those little micro challenges that you can do with your students in your classes. Make sure you're finding those ways to challenge them, and maybe it's something where you introduce a low block. Like, we're only going to do low blocks now with movement, right? And low defenses with movement. So that way it's something they can catch on to. So again, take your time with it. If it's new, don't rush. It's foundational. So now, if we're starting to add low strikes, we're starting to move forward, right? Inside low strike, outside low strike, right? And then we can still do overhead because we've only got two new lower half attacks, right? And then we're starting to come back. We're starting to do inside low block, outside low block. Now we've got a choice on our high blocks. Do we want to do an inside high block, or do we want to do a regular high block or an outside high block? So with that, now again, these are side steps and these are choices that your students can make, right? So we start to introduce the lower half of starting to think about inside, outside, overhead, inside, outside, overhead, or overhead. Choices. Everything we're going to do in exchange fighting is 3 moves back and forth, okay? So maybe you have a class where you're only doing upper half, or a round where you're only doing upper half. Maybe you're doing a round now where it's lower half for your intermediates and advanced. What if you started to put together, they're comfortable, they're doing great, their technique is great, their footwork is great, their intensity is good, they're hitting with the correct part of their cane. What's my next challenge? Okay, we've got it. We can do upper and lower half while moving, all right? So that can be any 3 strikes that we know. That can be inside, outside, outside, right? Whatever you can come up with, now that student has to react to whatever 3 strikes that person throws. Whatever offenses they throw, whether it's upper half, lower half, there's no order now. Now they get to choose however they want to attack. That's a real cane fight. That's real exchange fighting. That is really tough. So find out where those students are at. Challenge them, have fun with them. Don't overwhelm them too much. And if you find it's too much, dial it back, bring it back a little bit, and then start to add in incrementally. You can only do X, Y, Z, or you can only do outside low strikes, and we got to do something to try to defend that, or whatever it may be. Start to make sure that these students are getting not just so much in one class that it makes them feel really good, but they really have no idea how to apply it, right? Sow into them, make it so it's fun, exciting, captivate them with your energy, captivate them with your knowledge, put that knowledge into practice, so that way these students can go out and learn what you know now to challenge themselves to be better than us. We want them to be better than us. So if we keep them at that same level where the classes are boring, there's no energy in it, there's no reason for that student to be excited. Give them a reason to be excited. Demonstrate, detailed, drill. So make sure that as you guys get out there and you do all those triple Ds, the demo, detail, drill, you show them what it should look like, make them excited, and then go teach them how to do it. So with all those new exchange fighting techniques for intermediate advanced, make them excited. This is not a plateau. This is now they've stepped up. Now they get to go to the next level. If they're ready for more, give them more, and there's more where that came from.